Registered representatives offer securities through Securities America, Inc., member FINRA SIPC. Financial advisors offer advisory services through Securities America Advisors, Inc. Forest Hills Financial, Inc. and Securities America are separate entities. This is the Keeping Your Money Show with Jamie Westenbarger and Bart Steinler.
Good morning. Welcome to Keep Your Money Show. Jamie Westenbarger, joined as always by my esteemed colleague, Mr. Bart Steinler. Bart, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. It's another $1 million morning.
Indeed it is. We are back with our normal edition. We've had a couple best ofs with holidays and vacations and that kind of stuff. So thanks for listening. This is the Keeping Your Money Show, where we cut through all the bulls, the booyahs, the bells, whistles, honks, and horns to get you to the information that actually helps you move towards retirement. Heard all throughout West Michigan on 96.1 ESPN, and of course all across the world on our podcast, which you can find at iTunes, Google Play Music, SoundCloud, YouTube, and Stitcher. Just search for the Keeping Your Money Show. You can, of course, always find us at keepingyourmoney.com as well. If you want to join in on the show, you can always give us a call. Toll-free number is 888-98-MONEY. That's 888-986-6639. We don't take calls on the show, but someone answers the phone 24 hours a day, and we would love to hear your feedback, questions, concerns, or, you know, if you're complaining about something Bart had to say. So,
speaking of that, I was talking with a friend of mine from Colorado, and he had heard the show on a podcast.
Oh,
listened to it there. And he didn't have any complaints about any of the stuff that I said.
Well, that's good. I mean, he was your friend, so.
Right, right. He thought you were a little insulting, though.
Did he?
Yeah.
Well, I understand. I have that effect on people sometimes. We do have a great show on deck today. We're going to talk about why are desirable car collections cooling down out there in the market. If you're using that Face app, the photo editor Face app, it's gone viral with everyone showing themselves old and weird looking and everything else. We're going to talk about some serious concerns when it comes to security and how that could cross over into your financial world. How can a small business owner afford to retire? If you are a small business owner, it's a segment you definitely want to tune in for. And then we're going to have Vonnie in from I Understand, which is one of our partners, coming up here for our annual Memorial Golf outing, which takes place next week. It's right around the corner. So if you haven't registered yet and you'd still like to get in, we have a few spots left. You're welcome to give us a call to get registered, or you can, of course, go to our website. Specifically for the golf outing, it's keepingyourmoney.com/golf. It's the Hillary Westenbarger Memorial Golf Outing, raising money for Kids Food Basket and I Understand Love Heals. Couple sponsorships left, couple spots to golf left. Great time. It's next Thursday, July 25th at 8 a.m. Will be registration, breakfast, and use of the range with a shotgun start at 9, followed by a lunch and reception. We've got an awesome contest. You got a chance to win a car from Todd Wenzel Buick GMC, Putt for Dough, 50-50 rallies, raffle, not 50-50 rally, 50-50 raffle, silent auction, and a hole-in-one challenge with the opportunity to win $1 million. That's July 25th, next Thursday at Thornapple Point. To register, go to keepingyourmoney.com/golf or give us a call 888-98-MONEY. So, you know, there's certain things that kind of, when it comes to investing, they're outside of the normal scope of what we think of investing, but can still be quite profitable for people if they know what they're doing and have an interest in it. And, you know, some of the things that come to mind are art, collectibles, whether it be coins or baseball cards or stamps or currencies, like or whatever.
Collectible plates used to be a big thing.
Sure. Yeah, those were a big deal.
And may still be. I don't know.
And then, of course, cars comes into that conversation. Anyone who has ever watched the Barrett-Jackson auction on TV knows that some of these cars go for just astronomical amounts of money. But an interesting article that's been republished a number of different times over the last couple months, talking about the idea that is the idea of collecting cars, is that kind of cooling off? Is the value there that used to be there? And I thought it was interesting because not only does it point out cars as being a thing, but it kind of goes back to that idea that we talk about a lot of times, Bart, and that is something that worked for your parents or your grandparents may not continue to work in the future. And I think this is a kind of a real world example of that, where something that maybe had a lot of nostalgia and a lot of, you know, emotional attachment just doesn't have that to the current and future generations.
I'll tell you another thing that fits in there. I used to own a Harley Davidson motorcycle, and before I bought the Harley Davidson motorcycle, it was pretty much a thing that if you bought a brand new Harley and you drove it for 3 or 4 years, they would appreciate so much in value that you could sell them for just about the price that you bought them for. However, I bought at the end of that trend, and I didn't buy it for an investment. I bought it because I wanted to have a motorcycle and go riding around on a motorcycle. And I got that kind of out of my system, and I got ready to sell the motorcycle, and it did not hold up in value at all. And in fact, I think it took me about 1.5 years to sell it.
Yeah. And I think what they talk about in here, so they're talking to a gentleman from Hagerty Vehicle Ratings. And what Hagerty does is they rate cars based on their collectability, their market value, and they use a 0 to 100 scale, which basically anything over 50 is considered a vehicle keeping, or a 50-point rating is any vehicle keeping pace with the market. Above that would indicate above average appreciation. Things below 50 would be maybe vehicles that are kind of lagging, whether it be in valuation, interest, sales altogether. And it was kind of interesting because when I think of collectible cars, I'm kind of the generation where the muscle car is what kind of registers for me. And, after movies like Fast and the Furious and what was that one with Nicolas Cage where they stole all the cars? I can't think what that was called. But the Shelby kind of sticks out as like one of those must-haves. If you were a muscle car guy, the Shelby kind of becomes that, that car. Dodge Challenger, Pontiac GTO. I mean, those are all those muscle. Those all rate in the bottom 25 of this list. These are all cars that are either losing value or not keeping up with current values and are finding very little audience to purchase them out there. And so you have to kind of question, like, what is it? And it's interesting that he points out that another group of cars in that same category are kind of those 40s, 50s, you think of like the 57 Chevy and, some of these, whether it's a Bel Air or a Corvair or those types of things. And he's saying that there just really isn't a lot of buyers out there, that the generation that would be interested in them probably already owns them.
Right. We were talking about this earlier, and there's a couple things that go into this. One, they're saying that the higher price collectibles aren't going up anymore because they've just priced themselves out. It's kind of like if you're looking at an equity and the PE ratio is too high. There's just not room for growth there anymore. And the other thing is that the generation coming up isn't identifying with automobiles as much as we may have identified with them 35 or 40 years ago. It's just a different culture. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned when we were talking about this, you were mentioning that, people a lot of times would work on their own cars and stuff like that. And, if you had some rust areas, you would, get some Bondo and get it repainted and keep it up and things like that. And that's just not the way that, things work nowadays. A lot of times if you have a car and there's something that needs fixed on it, it's so technologically advanced that you have to take it to a shop to get it fixed. I mean, the days of you working on it yourself just aren't really practical anymore.
Well, and if you think about the generation that maybe would today be looking at a collectible car, it kind of is my generation, right? Your early 40s to early 50s, successful business person who has the additional capital to be able to do something like that. And I think we're seeing a couple of things. One, like we said, there's not that emotional connection. Don't get me wrong. I'll throw a Shelby GT350 in my garage any day if somebody wants to give me one. Would I drop $40,000 on one? I probably have other priorities, like putting my kids through college. You know what I mean?
Right.
And but then also there just isn't that same feeling of it. If you grew up in the era where these muscle cars were coming out and you saw the guy down the street that had that, that 68 Camaro or whatever, there's a lot more of an emotional attachment to that than somebody like me who I think they're cool, but I definitely don't have that same emotional connection to it. And then you also see people starting families a lot later. So maybe whereas a 50-year-old 20 years ago was an empty nester, today that 50-year-old may have still a couple school-age children at home where, some type of purchase like that just realistically doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah. Well, every once in a while we'll run into somebody and they'll say that, they have a collectible car or maybe some other collectibles, and they're looking at that as part of their, retirement plan, that when they start to need money, they're going to sell this and come into some money and then reinvest that for some sort of income type of investment. And that's, I'm not saying don't do that, because everyone's situation is different, but realize that if you have a collectible and it's kind of peaking in value, they don't always hold that value. And it might be a thing that you want to look at. If it's peaked or if it's appreciated quite a bit, it might be time to sell it and to look at some other place for that money.
Yeah, I think the other thing with that is understanding that collectibles come with costs, and making sure that your cost structure for that collectible still makes sense for that collectible's appreciation and value. If you have to store it, insure it, maintain it, those are all real costs. So you might have something you say, well, shoot, it's gone up 10% a year. Okay. But if it's a $20,000 car that's gone up 10% in a year, but you spend $800 a year storing it, and you spend $350 a year insuring it, and you spend $250 a year on maintaining it, you've eaten up a lot of that return. So not to say that you shouldn't own it, but maybe the emotional attachment to it is maybe more powerful than the actual return on investment, which can be a great reason to own something. I mean, if you love it, great, but maybe not buying it for the sole purpose of there being a return down the road. And it reminds me of houses. We've talked about this before, that the world, at least the United States, we're seeing a lot more movement to smaller living, less stuff. This younger generation coming up does not see a lot of appeal in the 4,500 square foot house in the suburbs. So a lot of people that buy homes, sometimes maybe even outside of their comfort zone, thinking, well, this will be a good investment. That's not necessarily always true just because it was before.
That's right. And I would say not even with just younger people. I know a lot of people in their late 50s, 60s, and 70s that have decided that all of this stuff they've bought and accumulated is more of a burden to them than it is something that they really want. Mm-hmm. And they start shedding all of this stuff because they want to have a simpler lifestyle. They don't want this stuff ends up becoming owning them. And they figure, well, they need to have a larger house because they have a lot of stuff. They want, they don't want to get rid of their furniture or their artwork or their pictures, so they need to buy a bigger house to house all this stuff. And when you start to think about it, if you can afford it and everything, that's fine. It's not wrong to do that. But if you want to think about, the effects it's having on your life and the sacrifices you're making to be able to have all that stuff, maybe you downsize and you live in a less expensive place, and it's still nice, but then you free up that income to, do more travel or experience other things.
Yep, for sure. All right, coming up, we're going to talk about the photo editing software Face app. If you haven't seen it, it's the one making everyone look old. And does this have concerns for security when it comes to your phone? Right here on the Keeping Your Money Show.
There's no one-size-fits-all when it comes to planning your future. Jamie, Bart, and all of the advisors at the Keeping Your Money Show understand that your financial goals are unique and your needs are going to change at varying stages of your life. Our team of advisors can help you tailor a financial plan that meets your unique needs. Call us today at 1-888-98-MONEY or visit keepingyourmoney.com to schedule your free initial consultation.